For us, the coronavirus pandemic was both great and terrible. It was terrible because we're small staff and it's chaotic and we're all having to be all hands on deck. We weren't any different than any other newsroom in the country. And so it was very stressful. It was really difficult to keep the ship together at times. But one thing that we did figure out, once we stopped having this very hair on fire moment and we stopped trying to cover everything of such a large scale thing, and we took a pause and said, what should we be covering that makes sense for us? I think that's when we changed. I think that's when the pivot happened. And that's when reporters started to see their beats, their roles within how we were covering the coronavirus pandemic differently.
We were, as a small newsroom, somewhat unprepared for that. We weren't as dynamic as we needed to be in a lot of areas. Obviously, for 2020, I think that changed in a lot of newsrooms. But those coverage areas, and this has become cliche, is that it exposed the underlying cracks of society. It did that for us too, and so we were like, okay, this was an issue even before the pandemic and even before George Floyd. So it was kind of a wake-up call for us, I think. About the San Antonio report is that all staff is engaged on pretty big decisions for the publication, like being involved in selection of the publisher, being involved in the selection of the editor, and being involved in the visioning process and the logo and all of that stuff is not something you would normally see in a corporate owned newspaper. So I think I imagine that's somewhat common in kind of startup, nonprofit newsrooms, smaller culture. There's more communication. There's more of a kind of buy-in of each staff member. So I think what it says about our culture is that we're very familial, we're in this together type of environment.
So when we broached the conversation about beat changes, it was really important to me to not have that conversation in a vacuum. We were too small of a staff. We had to have that conversation together. And it was the Jamboard exercise was very important because you saw the buy-in, you saw the fact that lots of people participated. We were actively listening not only to what we were sensing outside of our newsroom, but also to the feelings of those inside of our newsroom. And I think once we finally got together and really talked about it, we knew exactly what we needed to do.
Annually, the business team conducts a reader and member survey, and part of that survey is asking readers what kind of coverage they want to see us expand to. So we saw that those results were affirming of the intention to shift our beat coverage, in that readers and members both were clearly receptive and wanting the beat changes that we were intending to do. Another element of our role in the shift was collaborating with editorial to ensure that we were communicating accurately and effectively regarding the change. Through the change, we've kind of I would hope have made a commitment as a newsroom to always be kind of keeping a pulse on what readers want and asking readers and affirming, what we want to do is what they want to see. The fine balance between editorial direction and what readers will respond to and what they would like to read is a very it's a fine balance. But it needs to exist. Now that we've informed them, and I hope we did a good job of doing so, they will continue to trust us, and will only deepen the relationship we have with them as a newsroom that is committed to meeting their needs as a community.